Okay. Chuck had asked me in that if I had any pictures of this angel that I was going to demonstrate, and unfortunately the only one that I had was the one that was the prototype, and I've since kind of changed it around a little bit. So we're going to do the ones that, there's one on the show and tell table, and there's a couple of them up here. I've got a little variation to them. Joe, could you put up that first slide? You're going to start off in that, the block of wood has a dado in it, almost to the center, and I've got a couple of slides in that. They'll be in the newsletter to give you actual dimensions. 1.5 inches from tailstock to the slot here. And we'll turn this down. We're going to turn it down to 1 3/4 diameter at this end. What I'm going to do now is on the end of this, I'm just going to kind of scoop it out a little bit, reduce the weight. I'm going to sand the inside of this right now, and then I'll bring up another little device to give me some support for it. I'll try not to sand too hard. It'll slow it down. What I'm going to do now is to try to get the shape just of the body, and I don't know if you see this. What I've used is just a little piece of, I guess it's carpet pad, Sometimes I've seen it used also on the bottom of like metal drawers in order to keep your tools from sliding around. Just place that in here and bring the tailstock up to it. I'm going to leave just a little bit of a shoulder here. I don't want to go right up to the very edge because I'm going to put this later into a jam chuck. I'm just going up just a little bit past where the dado is in here. Eventually the head is going to be down at that end. Here's a little scraping action, finish this up in here. At this point, I like to sand this. It doesn't need too much, but this was what my original prototype was. It was just nice and smooth. Since then, I decided, well, needed something to get a little bit fancy, so they've got a couple of different options. I've done a little wood burning, some rings on it. I've done some texturing. I think what I'm going to do is to kind of include all of it. This texturing tool, a few years ago in that Mike Adams, Lincoln, his son and I, we found this on YouTube, and it's kind of a nice little inexpensive texturing tool. All it is just a Dremel, and there's a magnet down in here and a couple little bearings at the top. It works pretty good. I've tried it with 3 different Dremel tool bits on it. This ball seems to work the best, and I've got some extra parts in that. If anybody wants to try making one of these, you can find the instructions if you look on YouTube with Mike Pease. He does a good demonstration of it, and it's got a list of all the parts that you need for it. But I'm just going to put a little texture in here at the bottom. And the accent, I'm just going to cut a small groove on both sides, and then I'll burn that in. I hope my son never gives up playing the guitar, because that's where I get all my strings from burning this. He passes them on to me. At this point, I'm going to turn this around and turn the head on it. And I do find that sometimes, I hope it shows up there, you can see a little bit from the texture from that pad I put in. You may have to sand that some afterwards. Take that out now. want to take this down to about 5/8 of an inch in diameter. I can see I want to get my neck just a little bit skinnier in here. The head we're going to turn so it's about 5/8 in diameter. Before I cut this off, I'm going to try sanding this up real good around the head and the part of the neck. I'm just going to put a small mark on here where the center is, so I can so I know where to put the screw eye. And at this point, I would take this over and put some type of finish on it. What I've been using is I've just been using a lacquer high gloss finish to it. My wings that I have for it, they won't quite fit in here. You have to sand off just a little bit off the bottom of it. The wings that I have, where I was getting them from, they are no longer available there, but I have since found them at a couple different Etsy sites. If you're looking for them, what you want to look for is what's called a 2 1/4 inch wing. And as you can see, by sanding it off a little bit, then it will fit down in what's left of your dado. You haven't cut too much off of the top part of the dado. This is showing up? Yeah, okay, good. You just want to leave a little bit of it there. I'm going to glue this in. I've been using a tight bond real fast set. Just a small dab will do it. And this sets up really quick. For the halo, These rings, I found these at Amazon. They're on my handout page that I have for this. And it just takes a couple little drops of some Gorilla Glue, which dries nice and clear. I put like 3 drops on it. And we'll let that set up. That's all there is to it. These things come out pretty quick. Like Phil was saying, or Rich was saying, that these make nice little gifts in that you can either put them on and wrap up a present, you go into a party, give them to the host. Hostess, she always likes you. You become a real friend of hers afterwards if you take her something like this. Other than that, anybody got any questions?
The flat where you put the wings on there, when is that done before you even start turning it?
The flat part is that part of that dado it's left. That's all it is. You cut a dado across it and you got just a little small space there. But I did find out though that I put the finish on the wings and the finish on the angel before I assemble it, because when I spray it otherwise, it doesn't get a very good even finish with the wings being in the way. They kind of block things.
Nick was good with the skew. His first assignment to us was to turn a garden dibble with a skew and only a skew. Well, that was 10 years ago. I haven't finished mine yet. So what Tom did today, he used a skew on. I'm going to use a skew because one of my favorite turners here challenged me at Woodcraft to use a skew when he saw that I was going to rough out a blank for one of these with this. And he thought it might be overkill, Tim. So what I'm going to do was Nick's second project, and it's a little snowman with a top hat on, a little bit of decoration. It's all beads or flats. There's no coves involved, but he spec'd in a small spindle gouge instead of the skew. He didn't use a skew on this project, even though it's a perfect job for somebody that can handle a skew. By the way, you've all heard, you hear somebody gets a compliment, say, you really did a nice job. And guy comes back and says, well, it's not my first rodeo. Well, this is my first rodeo. I've never turned on this thing, and I see everybody having trouble with it, so brace yourself, and I'll try to get you out for lunch. All right, this was Nick's, by the way. I won it at the end. He did cat in the hat. He drew whiskers on the thing. I couldn't draw anything on mine, but I'm going to do something like this. The eyes are puff paint, which I had never heard about, but it's a texture paint that you can build up on. So you could make the carrot nose as long as you have time for. So the buttons, the eyes, and the nose are puff paint. I did not get my stuff out here early enough, but if anybody's interested in doing this, if they want to see what could be used or what I've used here, come take a picture and you'll have it. I didn't get Joe to get a slide for you, so you're kind of on your own. Riney introduced me to color a while back, and I invested in some things that were kind of expensive, but I think I'll be able to use them as the years go by, and some of his ideas are up there too. Because I was challenged, I'm going to take down a piece of poplar with a skew, God willing, and this is the process. Take the square down to a cylinder, and then we're going to start on the tailstock end and make a line for the waist at one end. This is all waist, but this mark will define the top of the hat, whatever the hat is that you designed. The next two lines define the thickness of the brim of the hat. Nick went with about 1/16 of an inch. I'm not going to measure anything today. You have the freedom to make these. I think Andy Smith did some snowmen back there, much shorter, and they look great. So you decide what you want, but it is supposed to be an icicle, and Nick liked 1 inch by about 8. So he used 5/4 wood, netted about 1 inch. I have some wormy maple that's a little larger than that, and hard maple. Hard maple was his favorite, but because of the decoration, and he said you could use oak or ash, whatever kind of light colored wood you want so that the coal stands out. Do what you want. I have both here for the LET class. I have to learn a lot about decorating. I started turning in 76 or 77 on a Craftsman lathe. I got a Shopsmith after that, and I didn't really start learning until I got with you guys and got introduced to all this stuff. So decorating, that's Riney. This is new. So what I would advise anybody that's as shaky as I am to leave the waist on your blank after you turn the shape that you want and after you do the sanding that you think is necessary. And I'm not going to do that today. I'm not going to do any sanding. I'd leave these on until you do the decorating, because if you're like me, this was supposed to be for the OSU people in here, Roger, for the Buckeyes. I tried to put a number 10 on there for the quarterback. You couldn't even read it. It was tough. So I put it back on the lathe, turn it off, or sand it off, or whatever. So I would recommend, unless you're confident and very good, leave this on until your decorating is done. Okay. A couple other things I wanted to share. I wear this respirator. It's called a power cap. It's battery powered. This is a helmet kind of thing. The face guard is like everybody's, and you can put a plastic cover over it, so if you get lacquer on it or something, you can just replace it. I think they're around $800 now, but I'm not sure. They're not cheap, but compared to some I've seen, this battery is very lightweight. It holds a charge for a good 8-hour shift or whatever you do. You can test it with this little device in here that comes out. And if it opens up enough, that means your filters are clean, you're safe, you're good to go. So I just wanted you to see that. I will not be wearing it today because the visor does not open and this doesn't come off like Tom's did, off and on, off and on. So I'm just going to use safety glasses. But anybody that wants to come up and take a picture of this or whatever, come on up. First class I ever took here was from Alan Lacer. It was a taming of the skew, and that was probably 12, 14 years ago. And he taught us how to make a dead center into a drive center. And he called it a safety center. He just filed a couple nicks in there. That's enough to hold the wood in. But if you do something wrong, the wood is going to stop, the lathe will keep on going, the tool stays out of your eye. It's a nice thing. A steb center or a cheap, this is a Craft Supplies Apprentice steb center knockoff kind of thing. This will work too, but this was more or less free. Rick here. I told you, Jim brought this to my attention. We were watching somebody turn. He had rings, earrings, everything on, and it didn't look right. And I promised I'd take this off and roll up my sleeves. Thank you, Jim. Okay, I am going to attempt to do what you've taught me over the last 20 years, ABCD. I'm going to make sure that the tool is anchored. I used to think that meant holding it down, really making sure it was stuck on that tool rest. Well, that's not what it means. It means get it on the tool rest first before it hits the spinning wood. Next is B, bevel. You want to find the bevel. I rub the upper part of the tool on the wood and you hear it bounce around. And then slowly lift the handle until you start cutting. There's ABC. The dance, I don't dance. But I know it's a better way, better to do this, and especially if you have a long tool here, better to do this than this. And especially if you tend to direct your cut with both hands instead of just holding the tool down with one hand and moving, directing the cut with the other. So I'm going to try to do that. First rodeo. Okay, I have a Powermatic at home. It tells me what the speed is. I usually start out something like 1500. I have no idea what I'm at, but we'll see. So I'm going to turn this into a cylinder and make the 6 marks that I showed you. Okay, there it is. I put in too much pressure, the wood stops, the lathe keeps going, no blood. It's a good thing. I guess I should say that if you're going to make one of these for your one grandson, spindle roughing gouge is the way to go. But if you're going to do production turning, or like Danny Douglas does all his pens, he gets everything in a line, one after another, then this is the tool you want to learn how to use. Good luck. You're not going to learn how to use it today, but by the way, everything on the cylinder is going to be turned away except for the brim, the edge of the brim, and maybe the top of the shoulders. So I really should make a good cylinder out of this thing first. And the practice, learning how to use this would be helpful. But just so you know, if I cut it a little bit too deep somewhere, that's going to come off anyway. This is an easy, stress-free project for most of you. Questions? Okay, I'm going to make the 6 marks. Top of the hat, top of the brim, bottom of the brim, this is the face. It shouldn't be a cylinder, but something that you can paint a face on. And Nick said when you turn the face or head into the hat, make it look like it's going into the hat. I tried a tassel cap on a guy just for fun. That's puff paint. It's texture paint for the tassel cap, but it looks like it's has a solid bottom and it's sitting on the top of his head. That's what you don't want to do. Okay, bottom of the brim, top of the head, the shoulders, and then the base. This is another Nick idea. He liked a little decoration at the bottom. It can be a sphere or a diamond or whatever you want it to be. I'm not measuring anything. I need some waste wood, be probably at least 3/8 of an inch. Make the top of the hat, the top of the brim, something like that. Stay at an 1/8 inch or so thick. The face, maybe 3. Oh, I can't look at you and turn at the same time, evidently. This will be the separation between the head and the shoulders. Waste wood at the bottom. Little bead or a sphere. And I should have said it, when you do get your cylinder, stop the lathe and take a look at the wood, because you might see an ugly knot or a void up here that would disappear if you reversed it and turned it off down here. I didn't do that, but I should have. Okay, I can turn this up without worrying about it shutting off, Tom? Okay, I'm going to stay with the skew just for a while. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I took off too much wood where the brim should be. The brim should probably be the same diameter as your blank was. Mine's less than that. Okay, I believe you've seen me butcher enough. The skew is the tool for the job in the right hands. But I also spec'd in small spindle gouges, and I'll use 2 to do most of the work now. I'll continue with the waste wood, get rid of some of that. And I'm turning beads with a spindle gouge. So I'm laying it flat on top, open flute, and I'm lifting and rolling at the same time to make the bead. Rounding the shoulders over. Blending the head or neck in with the shoulders. I really took way too much wood off the brim. So this guy is going to be brimless. Okay, I'm just shaping the top of the hat, getting rid of the waste wood. I'll take it down to something between a 16th and an 1/8. Tim and I were talking about tolerances. You know, his segmented work, his tolerances are like .000 something. Mine, I try to do 5/32, 11/64, give or take an 1/8 inch. That's me. Follow Tim's lead. Okay. I'm going to try to go back to the skew for a while. Ooh. There was an example where I did not anchor. I hit the wood before I had to lay the tool on the tool rest. Okay, at this point, I would check to see how flat I am and do whatever sanding is necessary, which I'm not going to do today. By the way, if you are shooting for a certain diameter and it's a standard diameter, I saw Tom and Pat Carroll and everybody else using the calipers that if you hold the wrong way, you get it in the eye. I really like open wrenches for determining whether you've hit your mark or not. If you have the wrench that'll work for you, this thing will not poke your eye out, it'll knock you out if you let go of it, but I just really like those. Okay, I'm going to call this done. It is ugly. But you saw the process. Six marks, turn the beads, turn the flats, whatever it is, shape a head that you can draw on, and get it ready to be parted off, which I'm not going to do right now. All right, at this point, as I said, you could part it off. When I started doing these, I used a Japanese saw to cut off the nub, but I've been using a skew for the last week or two, and it works fine for that. You can easily do it. But if you part it off now and then you make a mistake when you start decorating, you're going to have a problem. So I would say sand it, make sure it's ready to be parted off, get the waste wood out when you're done decorating it. All right, the decoration. I know what time it is, so what Nick Cook did was he used puff paint for the eyes, buttons, and the nose. This is the stuff. It's available in this quart bottle that'll last. I could pass this around the room and would never use it up if we're just doing the eyes. But if you find other uses for a textured paint, like I tried to do with this tassel cap, this is nice stuff. And it does come, this is a set of, looks like 10 different colors of puff paint in smaller quantities. And Riney showed me that we can use a lot of different colors in our wood, and here's a bunch. Oh, I know one thing I could have done. Tombow pens. These are water-based. They work well on hard maple. If you try them on oak, especially red oak or ash or another porous wood, they're probably going to bleed. And I have good examples of bleeding, smearing, smudging. There's all kinds of things up here that you can mess up. And also, I don't know everything I should know about sealing. If you use a lacquer, like Def lacquer sanding sealer or Zinsters, and then you try to put a water-based ink on it, they don't play well together. And I don't get it all, and I'm not going to pretend to know the answer, but you can decorate these things using, Nick used Sharpies for a lot of things, and I don't know, I think you might be able to do better now. But these are examples of what I could use, or what I did use. I'm just going to grab one now that I haven't used. All right, so at home I turn mine, I reverse it, which doesn't look like I did. I just want to switch.
This is the button that reverses.
Oh, it says reverse on it. Forward. How did I do, boss? Okay. I like to reverse it and throw the ink away from me, and it just seems to go on better. But if you're happy with what you have, you can do some decorating now, and some of you could probably come up with unique things. But the tomboys, this is poplar, and I didn't sand it, but there's the, what do you call that thing right above the brim on the hat? Thank you. This is the unsanded, beat-up brim, but that comes out pretty nice. You can do stripes. Nick did the cat in the hat thing. I tried to do the Buckeyes hat, and I'd say a Steelers hat, but this is the wrong room to say that in. Okay, so you can continue with the hat before you take it off the lathe. Now, what I had to do was I took a pencil and marked. Okay, I took a pencil and marked on the flat grain rather than the transverse or the side grain, whatever it is. I marked where I wanted the eyes, the nose, and 4 buttons with a pencil that I could take off. And then once I did that, this stuff comes out, it's thick, but you don't want to squeeze the bottle over the wood because it's going to make a mess. Ask me how I know. But after you make your dot with the pencil, just want to drop this on for the 2 eyes, and Nicole do the same with the nose. And I found that to make round buttons and round eyes, which would be preferred, I took a little swizzle stick, round toothpick kind of thing, and after I put the drop down, I'd just press it in with that. And this being round, made for rounder elements. I could use a brush with some of the things that I've been introduced to, but I didn't, and they're here today for whoever's staying for the LET class. You're welcome. I'll try to help you as much as I can. But anyway, you would put your paint on, let it dry. It takes a while for the puff paint to dry. Nick used a very small Sharpie to do 5 dots for the smile, or in the case of my piece of oak that had a flaw in it, and he lost his feet, so I just made a short one. I put a frown on him. You do what you want. Okay. My wife put this decoration on. Andy Smith drilled holes in the side of his and made little arms for his snowmen, which was cool. You can do whatever you want with it. And I think at this point, I should stop. Anybody that's staying for the class, this stuff will be here. If you're not staying for the class and you want to take a picture of something, please do. All the supplies came from either a craft store like Michael's or Hobby Lobby, or Walmart carries a lot of this stuff, believe it or not. Some of it's made in China. And
What size are the violets?
well, it depends on you. If you're going to make something big, you might want a large one. These look like the opening is close to 3/16. I'm using very small ones. I guess there's an association of hanging icicle ornaments somewhere, and they say the maximum weight they will permit in their competitions is 2.5 ounces. So I'm not using cocobolo for anything. Keep them light, and if they're light, these little babies are fine. They're available to the class today, and I think I probably found them online, Amazon or somebody. The blank that Nick spec'd in is 8 by a minimum of 1 inch. I like them a little fatter because I make mistakes and then I can cover it up.
But lengthwise, will be anything from 6 to 9 inches?
Again, John, it's entirely up to you. You didn't see me with a ruler except when I tried to see if my taper was flat. But you do what you want. But 8 inches is what every one of these started out 8 inches.